Hello, lovelies. Welcome to the Fat Joy podcast, where we talk each week about how to flourish in an anti-fat world. I'm Sophia, Apostol, a fat professional coach who loves talking to other fat people about what it's like to live within oppressive systems that marginalize our bodies, and how we still dare to have the audacity and courage to reach towards our collective liberation and embrace our joy. Please know this is an adult content podcast, so there will be swears, we will be talking about harms we've experienced, and we will be rebelling against weight stigma, diet culture, fat phobia, ableism, racism, etc. You can get more Fat Joy goodness, including how you can support the podcast, through my newsletter at fatjoy.substack.com. And for episode transcripts, book reviews, and show notes, head to the Fat Joy website at fatjoy.life. I am so glad you're here. Enjoy this episode. Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Fat Joy podcast. I'm Sophia, and I have such an exciting episode today, one that I don't know anything about this topic. And so I'm so excited to talk to my guest, whose name is Adrianne Briere. Hi, Adrianne.
Hello.
So, content warning for this episode before we dive in. So, Adrianne is a funeral director. So we are going to be talking about death. We're going to be talking about remains. We're going to be talking about what else, Adrianne? Any other content warning? Like kind of how bodies are handled in death? Yeah. So if that does not feel like your cup of tea right now, please turn us off. Come back later if it feels good. Just really caretake yourself, because I think this can just, be a sensitive topic. I will share one of the reasons I'm super interested in it is because until I saw a workshop that Adrianne had done for NAFA, which, okay, I'm going to get this. I keep trying. I literally practice this acronym because this organization does incredible work. It's the National Association for the Advancement of Fat Acceptance. Did I get it?
Yeah.
Okay, good. I literally practice it like daily. I'm like, I love this organization. I need to know what this acronym is perfectly. So Adrianne did a talk for NAFA. I saw like an Instagram post about it, and I was like, I never even thought about. Like, I know how fat bodies are treated differently in life. And honestly, it never occurred to me that they would be treated differently in death. But of course they are. And so I tracked Adrianne down and was like, please come talk to me about this. I think this is fascinating and like important information for us to have so that we can plan for our deaths. So, Adrianne, tell us about who you are. And I'm just like so excited you're here.
I'm excited to be here. So I'm almost 40. I know I don't look it, but I'm almost 40. I've been licensed for almost 14 years. Lived with my husband and our two kids, both boys, Lord help me, who are 8 and 4. And people talk about the difference between a job and a career. And definitely this is not a job for me. It's what I was meant to do. Exactly 0 people who know me were shocked when I told them that this is the career field that I was going to pursue. And it's very rewarding, as weird as that sounds. You get to meet a lot of really cool people, whether they're alive or whether they're dead.
Yeah. So interesting. Well, and I imagine like you get to like support people through what is very likely quite a difficult time in their lives.
That's, I think, the biggest misnomer about funeral service as a general rule is everybody always comes to me and they're like, it must be so sad. I'm like, not all the time. Not all the time. There are definitely times where it is sad and it's somber and it has its moments. There are more times than not that I'm walking out of the room and apologizing to the people around going, sorry, we're laughing so loud. But that's just how it's going.
It's like the celebration piece. Is that what it is? Yeah, the celebration of life piece.
That, and it's also getting people comfortable.
Yes.
Getting people comfortable, especially if they've never done anything like this before. Everybody walks in assuming they're going to see the straight-laced older man and white hair and whatnot, and then they get me. or some of my colleagues. Like, it's not just me, is we have a similar approach to it, where it's a necessary part of life. It is something that needs to be done and dealt with, and if we can make it a little bit easier for them, then we've done our job.
That's beautiful. So let's talk about fatness. So let's start with you first. Like, what's your relationship to the word fat?
I personally, I've always been a little bit of a bigger boned girl, right from my early teenagehood. And it's always just been, it's something I struggled with for a long, long time. And it's really only been since I've had kids that I've really embraced my body. Because at this point, I'm like, you know what? I have grown and had 2 children surgically extracted from my body. Everybody else can go away.
Yeah.
I am comfortable in my own skin. If you've got opinions, they're your problem.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I love that. And I imagine there's like also you're sharing that with your kids too, in that
yes.
like not having it be like a diet focused household and
No, with how crazy life can be, especially with my job thrown into it.
Mm-hmm.
There are times where we're in one door and out the other very fast, or I'm coming home late, or I'm working a weekend, and it is what it is. So, Yep.
Yeah, nice. Wow. So when it comes to your role and what happens with, I don't know, you're going to have to tell me the words for this because I don't know. Is it like for fat people who have died? Like what do we say even? Like just people, like, is there an identifier for different sized bodies that need to be, or that may need to be treated differently?
No. And the thing is there's only certain instances where it comes up where it could potentially, I don't want to use the word problem, but a consideration. And I touched on this a little bit with the webinar with NAFA. So like if somebody passes at home, we need to know A, where they are, B, how big they are. So we can send the appropriate amount of people in order to get that person out of the house everybody safely and with dignity, the best that we can. And so if it is somebody who is 300, 400+ pounds, we're going to need more muscle, more physical people to do the work. So the other instance is when selecting a casket. It's not about weight, it's about measurement.
Right.
So, because you can have somebody who's 6'3" and weighs 350 pounds, but shoulder and elbow width, they're fine. They can fit into the standard casket. Or you can get somebody who is 5' nothing and 350 pounds. We might need to look at something oversized. It's all relative.
Yeah. So yeah, this is so fascinating to me, because what I'm thinking about a lot, as I imagine comes up, is like, so first of all, there's like thinking about, oh gosh, what do I need to put in place for my eventual death as a fat person? And also like if I'm thinking also too about the people who are making these calls, who are choosing the caskets, who are figuring things out. So what if we start with ourselves? So let's say I die. Knock on wood. I don't want to die right now. But let's say I did. What are the things that while I'm alive, I should be thinking about or doing, because I am living in a fat body? Like, is there like a checklist, or are there things like, what should I be doing now?
Well, it's the same thing really that everybody should be doing is,
okay.
Death is going to happen. There's nothing anybody can do to get around it. take a look at your local funeral homes and what options you have. Talk to their pre-planners. Most funeral homes, if not all, have pre-planning directors, whereas I deal with families when the death occurs.
So I've never even heard of that before. You pre-plan. I love it. Okay.
Yeah. And you can get your wishes down on paper. You can start paying for them. And each province and each state is different. Like you and I are both in the same province. So with pre-planning, it gives you security in terms of your arrangements. So that's something everybody honestly should do. It makes my job easier when the death does occur, because I've got a file already started. I've already got a lot of the information that I need in order to fill out the paperwork and all the documentation. Yeah, pre-planning, huge. Absolutely huge.
Yeah. And so when it comes to pre-planning and me making a decision about what do I want to do with my remains, when we had our first phone call, this is one of the first things I asked about, because I've always thought I would love to donate my beautifully fat body to medical research so that they can stop being so goddamn, fat phobic. And then I heard that they actually don't want my beautiful fat body.
Some don't. There may be some that do. A good chunk of them don't, unfortunately. They're very particular when it comes to medical donation, the type of bodies that they take based on age, size, and what you died of and where you died.
Oh, interesting. Where I died. Okay. Or
yeah.
I need to stop talking about my own death. Where someone died. I'm creeping myself out. Yeah. And so like that, I just think about the implications of that. The fact that fatness is one of the things that can exclude you. Whereas if all the other circumstances being equal, if I was thin, my body would be accepted.
Yeah.
Yeah. To me, all I think about is, wow, way to perpetuate anti-fat bias. So fat bodies are not being, practiced on in medical schools or wherever these donations, like I always say donate my body to science, but I actually don't even know what that means or where I go. Like, what is that actually?
We have a program where I am with one of the local universities where they do accept medical donations. And there is an application process that needs to be done where we have to send them the medical. They have to get the person's medical history as well to see whether or not they fit into what it is that they need at the time. There are other cities that have similar programs with their local universities as well too. So it's not even me that makes the decision. It's them. And there have been instances even where thin people are not accepted because of one reason or another. As to why, I honestly haven't done one myself. I'm usually pretty good passing them off to one of my colleagues, which is fine because I get all the ship outs, so we're good.
What does that mean? What's a ship out?
Literally, we repatriate somebody to another country.
Oh, interesting. So they can be buried in the country of their choice.
Yeah.
Oh.
That's kind of my forte.
Oh, that's so interesting. Huh. Yeah. Oh my God. I'm just like learning.
Wormhole to go
no
down.
Kidding. I'm like customs, declarations, like health stuff must be like, there must be so much there. Okay. Huh.
It's a whole other bag of worms.
Yeah. So if I wanted to donate my body to science, would I know if I'm eligible or not until I die? Like I might say to the pre-planning director, hey, these are my wishes. And they might say, well, we'll try it and see. What do you want if they refuse? Is that kind of how it goes?
That's usually what happens is pre-planners, when they want to donate, then you pre-arrange for worst case scenario is that you aren't approved for donation and that we still have to, whether it's burial or whether it's cremation, usually it's cremation, then all of that is taken care of. So if you are accepted at the time, then we just change the arrangements a little bit and the family would actually get the additional money back.
Okay. Got it.
So in terms of the money side of things, there's still, yeah.
Interesting.
It would be, and most pre-planners that I work with encourage families to reach out to the program, find out what the criteria are at the moment, and go from there. So if you qualify now, so long as everything stays consistent, chances are you'll probably be accepted when the time comes.
Right. Okay. Interesting. And then the other thing too is, and I don't know, I'm curious if you know about this too. The other thing is like organ donation, like on my license, I'm like an organ donor. So, but again, would I be excluded from that as a fat person?
I don't believe so. Usually, and this is just my limited experience with organ donation, is so long as you're healthy.
Okay.
Like,
then the organ itself is healthy. And
exactly. So long as the organ itself is healthy, your body is healthy, and there isn't like signs of illness or disease, they're going to take everything that you and your family have allowed, just because organ donation is still so rare, unfortunately, that so long as you check off the boxes, your physical size doesn't matter. And we have had fat people come in who have been organ donors for one thing or another. So.
Okay. All right. That's good to know. All right. So I'm going to bank on organ donation versus medical donation, it sounds like.
Well, you also have to remember organ donation is like,
if I'm in a hospital, right? Like died in a hospital.
Dying in a hospital, but usually it's some kind of traumatic accident as a general rule. It's somebody who's gotten into a car accident and has survived, but they're brain dead.
Yeah.
That's where, and that doesn't happen all that often.
Right. And actually, in retrospect, maybe I don't want that to be my number one option. It's so interesting. And I can really see why. I mean, even just in this, as we're just kind of like, just at the tip of the iceberg with this stuff, I'm like, wow, this is why it would be so important to like talk to my husband about this stuff and for him to like think about what he wants. Like, yeah, we don't talk about this in our cultures.
It's not just fat people or thin people. It's everybody. Absolutely everybody. You got to have these conversations with people, regardless of your body situation. The amount of people that have come walking in and they're deer in headlights and have like, we've never had this conversation. It's like, we're going to have them now. Unfortunately, we have to have them now. But having those conversations with your loved ones is important.
Yeah. So do you have like a checklist? Like if you're like, here are the 5 to 7 things you should be talking about with your loved ones. Like what is it? What should we be thinking about?
Burial or cremation. I think that's the biggest one. Because funeral, visitation, all that other stuff, that's all for the living.
Right.
That is all for the people who you've left behind. Yeah, it celebrates you, but its actual purpose is to help them process, help them mark the occasion and kind of start the grieving process. But whether, like, if you feel strongly enough one way or another, burial or cremation, that is the number one thing to speak up about.
Mm-hmm.
Because if they get it wrong.
Yeah. Do most people write this into their wills, or is this something totally different?
Totally different.
Okay. I also don't have a will. I'm very not adulting right now, apparently.
Burial or cremation is the biggest one. Whether or not you want to have some kind of a funeral or service or even just a party, I've had some people over the years where their loved one was like, just, put me in a box, burn me, don't worry about it. And then they themselves struggle. Like they fulfill the wishes of their loved one. And then they struggle.
In what way? They're struggling with?
With the grief, with the processing. Like they don't feel like they had an opportunity to mark the occasion. And I'm either able to kind of change things at the time, or if it's I've had it where it's the first parent that happens. So we're doing something for the second parent. And I'm like, you know what? Do it for both. Do it for both. And that way, you know, you get that kind of sense of closure for both. But yeah, it's a very big reason why people have a lot of compounded grief issues is they don't want their loved ones to spend the money or to do anything like that. And it's like, but you have to.
Because what you're saying then is, while that might be like the person before they've died, they've said, just throw me in a box, don't spend money. And they're doing it out of care for the people who they left behind. But then the people left behind feel like they missed out on like honoring and celebrating and the life of this person they loved. Wow. It's so complex.
It is very, and I had this brainstorm a couple of years ago while dealing with this kind of a situation with a family. And I'm like, it's a very fine line that you have to walk between respecting their wishes and doing what you need to do. And it kind of hit us both at the same time. It was kind of like, whoa, that's really profound. And it's so true.
Yeah.
It's so true. And because I've even had personal instances where whether it was the person or the situation or COVID, weren't able to do anything. And you just kind of feel left. You know, like there's a step missing.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So, and
that would be really hard.
Yeah. Like when my cousin died last year, I wasn't able to bring my kids for a variety of reasons. And the oldest I've felt, you know, there's been a couple of times where I feel like I kind of missed a step with him.
Mm-hmm.
But luckily he's young and kids are resilient. But yeah, no, it's a big thing. And I feel like a lot of people don't put it's not that they don't put a lot of thought into it. You're right. One, don't spend the money, but also two, if they're ill, they don't feel at their best. They don't feel like they look like themselves or they're acting like themselves. And yeah.
Well, and that made me think about like decisions around like open casket, closed casket, like all these different decisions that if people don't talk about, the loved one who's organizing all of this has to just decide and not know.
Yeah.
Yeah. And they're in grief. Like that's a big, messy situation.
Absolutely. And trying to make these decisions when you're emotional.
Oh, yeah.
It's like the amount of times that I've had a family, they want to come in right away. You know, we got to meet, we got to make these arrangements, we got to get this done. It's like, hold on a second. No. You're going to take today. You're going to process. You're going to breathe. We'll regroup tomorrow. Or even the next day.
Mm-hmm.
You know, yeah, we're on a bit of a timeline, but no, you can take 2 seconds to just kind of breathe and take this all in and think a little bit. And I don't think I've had a family come back to me and be like, that was useless. No, all of them, because they come in the next morning or the next afternoon, and I'm like, did we get some sleep last night? Yeah, we got a little bit. Great. Are we feeling okay today?
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely feeling better today than yesterday. I'm like,
oh, I love that you bring that in. Like you're caretaking them through this process for sure.
Oh, 100%. You know, they walk in the door and we kind of, you know, take their hand metaphorically and walk them through this process, whether they've done it before or not. And, you know, it's the little things that you learn to pick up on, or you know, the questions that you ask and whatnot. And it's, yeah, it can be a lot sometimes, but you know, you can have some fun with it as well too.
Yeah. Yeah. So we have burial or cremation. Do you want like a funeral, a service, a party? Like, how do you want to be honored? What else do people need to be thinking and talking about to their loved ones?
Those are really the big ones. Everything else is just kind of situational, not inconsequential, but not as important. Um, if some people go as far as picking out like their casket, their urn, the flowers, even some of the stationary items. There's some things that I even suggest to families when I was doing some pre-arranging was leave some stuff for your family to do. Trust me. There will be lulls in the arrangement where we need to fill in time. There's methods and madness. So it's strategic. But yeah, the burial, the cremation, and then whether you want a service are the two big things.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. So everyone listening, that is your homework to have, even just start to think about these for yourself. Like, I think I know what my answers are, but I'm just thinking like, yeah, I think I know what my answers are, but I don't know if I haven't conveyed them to my husband. And now when you're talking, because I'm kind of like the donate my body to science. Anyone can have an organ. Like I'm kind of, I don't know. Like I don't really care that much. So I'm like, funeral party, whatever. I don't care. Like, and so I've told my husband, just like cremate me, whatever's left over, cremate me and like scatter me in the ocean. But now now I'm like, oh, maybe there should be like a celebration or like a funeral. And I definitely don't want a religious thing. Because here's the other thing too. I imagine religious traditions come in. Like I was raised Greek Orthodox, but I'm not affiliated with the church in any way. I would not want a typical Greek funeral.
And here's the thing. Is if you wanted a traditional Greek funeral, or I've had this happen with Russian Orthodox, they bury, they don't cremate. I actually had a priest refuse to do prayers, flat out. If they choose to do burial, I will happily come. Cremation, no.
See, that's it. What if I wanted a Greek funeral, but I didn't even know that piece? Huh. So many things to think about.
So many things to think about. And yeah, the religious aspect of it is part of it as well too. Because the thing is, you may not want a religious funeral, but your family might.
Right.
Yeah. So that's where you got to trust somebody or whoever it is that you're talking to who's going to be making these decisions. You really need to convey, especially when you throw some of the stuff like religion in there as well too. Italians are the worst when it comes to
sorry, Italians.
when it comes to some of the religious stuff, like the Greek Orthodox is pretty bad. Italian,
yeah,
oh, totally worse. And I had a family where it was the kids were my age, and they just wanted to do a celebration of life. They didn't want visitation. They didn't want to go to church. And finally, I looked at the daughter, and it was the same thing I said to my parents when I was getting married. I'm like, unless you're footing the bill, you don't get an opinion. And she came up to me afterwards and she went, I told my aunt that exactly. And shut her right up.
Yeah.
Good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. The person who's paying gets to decide.
Bingo.
Oh my gosh. Because that's the other part of this too, like the money part and the role that it plays as well. Because it's not, I hadn't realized just how expensive funerals can be. Like average cost of a casket is what?
I'd say between 3,000 and 5,000.
Right. And then if I needed an oversized one for my body.
So this is the fun thing is here, we don't, at least the company I work for, we don't have a different price.
There's no supersized price. That's lovely.
There is no supersized price. It is, you know what? The equivalent, whether it's a standard or whether it's an oversized, are still the same.
We
cost.
are inclusive when we die.
And I touched on this with NAFA as well too. In some places in the States, they do have an extra charge, like a fat fee for cremation. We don't have that in Ontario.
That was one of my other questions too. Like, is that okay?
Cremation is cremation is cremation.
Hello, it's Sophia. And I'm gently interrupting myself to let you know that I secretly recorded video content with almost all of the first 55 guests of the Fat Joy podcast. And I'm releasing it to anyone who becomes a subscriber to my new Substack newsletter. So you want to know what each guest is scared of, or what they'd put on a billboard, or what they'd tell their younger self? Become a subscriber of the newsletter at fatjoy.substack.com, and you can find out. You can become a subscriber for free, and if you'd like to help me keep making the podcast, you can become a paid subscriber for $5 a month. You're going to get access to the bonus videos either way, but paid subscribers will be getting additional bonus content on top of those videos. However you choose to become a subscriber, please know how grateful I am that you're here and supporting, bringing more Fat Joy into the world. Okay, back to the episode. Enjoy.
Then this kind of falls on us, is if it is an oversized container, will it fit into the chamber? Do we have to go to a different crematorium that can fit that size? Because I did once have a quadruple oversized, like eons ago, and there was one crematorium in the GTA.
Okay.
That could handle that size.
I was imagining something much more gory. What would be done with the body if it didn't fit?
No, all of those old wives' tales are not true.
Okay. I'm like, is it an episode of Saw that we're talking about? No, they just, we find something that fits. Okay. Dignity, right? Dignity?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or like somebody who is super tall. We'll fold their legs or we'll bend their knees up in the foot end of the casket. Like, there are ways that we can, it's all smoke and mirrors for the most part, but it's all done with dignity, to the best of our abilities. If it means getting an oversized just to fit height-wise, that's what we'll suggest.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So interesting. And then, so I'm curious about cost. Just again, even get as people are like starting to think through planning and even like conversations. So like if you do a visitation and a burial, so like keeping religion out of it, visitation at the funeral home and then a burial at a cemetery, what's that kind of average?
We like to start with like low end, what you're looking at for a full traditional, which would be visitation one day and a service or a gathering the next day. You're looking at minimum of $8,000. That does not include cemetery. Cemetery is a whole other can of worms.
Oh, interesting.
Yes. So the cost of the grave, the opening and closing, the memorial, that's all separate.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. You could be looking at $15,000 to $20,000.
Right. Because casket plus, food and like there's stuff that people do at flowers, like all these other little accoutrements. Wow. Okay. So 15 to 20,000 is a good ballpark for kind of a
That's
basic.
if you're buying cemetery as well. And
cremation, how much is cremation?
So depending on what you're doing with the cremated remains after, sometimes it is less expensive, sometimes it's not. Right off the top, it's going to be less expensive between like if you an average price casket versus like a cremation container, cremation fee, and maybe an urn. There's a little bit of a price difference. I don't think it's huge.
Mm-hmm. So still kind of like that 3,000 to 5,000 ballpark.
I'd say closer to probably 2 to 3.
2 to 3. Okay. Interesting.
Yeah. Depending on what urn you choose and what cremation container you choose, because some people go with the basic low end one, and some people find that's not dignified. They don't like the look of it, so we have other options.
Right. Yeah. Huh.
There's a lot of choices that a lot of people I don't think realize or appreciate is involved with.
Until then you're in it and it's like, here is a booklet of all the choices. Well, I will say even this is, I don't know what's crass to say. So I'm just going to say everything and we're just going to trust my best intentions. Because I was going to say, when I had to say goodbye to my dog, like we had someone come, she had cancer. We had to say goodbye because we did surgery, blah, blah, blah. It didn't work. Anyway, so basically she was at the end of her life. And so we had someone come to the home and give her the needle, put her to sleep, and she went. Oh, it's still hard. I'm going to tear up. This is my best girl. And even just something really simple like that, there were so many options of like what to do with the remains. Did I want a paw print in clay? Did I want the ashes? I mean, that felt overwhelming. So I can't even imagine the number of decisions, because I've been to funerals, but I've never like had to be the decision maker in any. So yeah, like how do you lead people through that?
A lot of it starts with what we call the first call. So the first time that they call in to let us know that a death has occurred, sometimes we are able to get some of that information on that first call. It all depends on their state of mind. Some people are just way too emotional and I get like bare bones information and make the appointment. We'll deal with it later. Other times, it's prearranged and I can go grab the file and we can start talking about it. Or if I know that they're Italian, I can be like, okay, what church do you want to go to? Because I want to call them now and get that booked because you're going to want this in 3 days and we need to get moving. So, but if I haven't had that conversation, they come into the appointment, I express my condolences to them. And then, what do you want to do? What kind of conversations did you have? What were they like? Hobbies, stuff like that. And kind of go from there. Some people have an idea and they express that. Some people are like, we have no idea. It's like, okay, well, let's get some of the mundane stuff out of the way, all the information that I need to get in order to fill out the paperwork because it's mundane. And then we start looking at, what they want to do. Are we burial? Are we cremation? Do they already have cemetery property? What are they going to do afterwards? But most people do come in and have some kind of an idea.
Okay, that's good. Yeah. And so you lead them through that conversation, then you set up all the details and it kind of goes from there. Yeah. So if we come back to this idea of what are the extra things that fat people might need to think about and might need to have conversations with their loved ones about, there's if someone dies at home, whoever's calling you needs to convey that, hey, this is a fat person, they're around this size, this is where they are. So, so that to bring extra support. We've already talked about medical donation and where that may or may not happen. But again, that feels like it's kind of can be dealt with like in the moment. Like if that's a wish that's expressed, that can be dealt with in the moment. So that's more just people knowing that that's what your wishes are. What else is important?
Those are really the big things. I find a lot of people think that fat people are dealt with so differently, and they're not. They're just people. And a lot of the stuff that we have to do, any changes we have to make, are all done behind the scenes, whereas the family isn't privy to that. And we only have a conversation with the family if it's a problem.
Yeah.
Like if we need to look at an oversized casket, that's a conversation that we have at the time. Sometimes when it's preed, especially if it's preed relatively close, like within a few years to the passing, an oversized casket's already been preed, great. If not, okay, here's your options for oversized, because unfortunately not all caskets models come in oversized, which is fine. So yeah, a lot of it is situational. It comes up as it comes up. It's not necessarily anything that you can plan for in advance. The only thing is if you do, like if you're ill and you do want to pass it home, those are the kind of things you need to let your family know. Like you said earlier, let them know, like, it is a bigger person, where in the house. You can even strategically plan. And I find the home healthcare nurses and whatnot are good at kind of arranging all of that as well too. Like, where in the house is the hospital bed going to be set up? Things like that. Because it's not just us that need to get in the house. Theoretically, it might be paramedics.
Right. Huh. Yeah. Again, another thing I've never thought about. It's like being on in the third floor attic where I am right now with my office. I don't want to die here. This would be bad.
Yeah, no, please don't. Or the basement.
Or the basement. Yeah.
So we have a little joke.
Is this gallows humor?
Yeah. Content warning. We call it the trifecta of doom, or the Bermuda Triangle. It's the bathroom between the tub, the toilet, and the sink.
Oh.
The amount of people
that
pass away in the bathroom and somehow manage to get themselves wedged between two of those three items.
Oh, no.
It is. And you want to talk about having to do a removal with dignity, trying to get somebody unwedged from that. Like, obviously we try our best, but there comes a point where
where they've got to come out. Yeah,
they've got to come out. We have to do whatever we can to get them out. But I have some friends that we look at house listings and we look at the bathrooms specifically when we're bored. Yeah. When it's slow at work, we pull up Realtor and look at bathrooms and be like, "Oh, that's a nightmare."
Oh my God! So it's like you need
staircases as well too.
Oh my gosh!
Knock on wood. No, I have not had to deal with spiral staircase as of yet. I would like to keep it that way.
Oh my God, these are things we never think about. Like I had no idea that a lot of people die in their bathrooms.
Mm-hmm.
Huh.
Yep. Wow. Not everybody is in a hospital or a nursing home.
No.
And when we do get a new call and it is in a home, we do try to ask, where in the house are they? What size they are. If it's an unexpected death, usually it's the police that are calling us on behalf of the family, so we can ask them those questions.
Right.
Sometimes it is family calling us, and so we try to be as gentle with that as possible, but it's questions we need to ask.
Right.
To be able to keep everybody safe. So.
Yeah. And preserve that dignity too. Like you don't want, yeah. Oh my gosh. Yeah. Wow. It's so much more complex than I realized. But now as you're talking about it, I'm like, oh, of course that makes sense. We need to know, where they are and what's happening. And oh, wow.
And as a licensed director, I do it all. I'm meeting with the families to make arrangements. I'm directing the services, but I'm also the one going to the house to do the removal. I'm also the one doing the physical preparation in terms of the embalming and dressing and casketing and all that.
Oh.
As a class 1 license, I do it all.
Oh, I did want to ask about that, about treating the body. Because it's very interesting. Some, like the whole kind of open casket, closed casket, treating all that kind of thing. Again, growing up Greek Orthodox, we traditionally do open casket. And I've been to funerals where that was not done. And so there's lots of variety here. But let's start with everyone, content warning. I'm about to ask, what do you do with the body? If that does not feel good to listen to, you've probably turned us off by now. But what happens with a body?
So when somebody is brought into our care, there's generally something that happens with everybody. So everybody gets an identification tag, typically around the ankle.
Not the toe? I thought it was the toe.
Not the toe. No, come off the toe, can't come off the ankle. Or a wrist if there's no ankles.
Why do movies always show the toe?
So in hospitals, there is a toe tag.
Oh, okay. Maybe that's why. Okay, got it. Yeah.
So the hospital tags, coroner tags tend to go around the toe. That's why it's called the toe tag. There is actual Yeah, it does go around the toe. That one, not ours. Ours has generally name, date, where removal happened from. And because we serve a few different of our chapels, which chapel. So everybody comes in, they're bathed. We do what we call set features. So we close their eyes, we close their mouth, shave them if they need to be shaved.
Would you take some of my chin stubble if I wasn't able to pluck that day?
Absolutely.
Thank you. Okay, making
Absolutely.
sure.
And I do, especially with women or with female presenting, I usually will ask the family if there is some facial hair. I'm like, you want us to take care of that? And they're like, yes, please.
Give her one last wax. Just like take her off. Yeah. Okay.
We've plucked eyebrows.
Oh, good.
Redyed haircuts.
Oh, really?
Oh, yes.
Oh.
So, because we want you looking your best.
Yeah,
really.
That's really lovely.
So the physical act of embalming, the definition that we get in college, it's the preservation, disinfection, and restoration of dead human remains for funeral purposes. Can't believe I still remember that.
Yeah, I'm impressed. I was like, what? That was like 20 years ago, right?
Close.
Yeah.
It was drilled into our heads so much. But we use the vascular system to inject a preservation chemical, essentially. That's the very simplistic way of describing it. And then once we're done the embalming, they're bathed again, and then generally dressed, cosmetized, and then into their casket.
How long does that take? How long does that process take?
It all depends on pretty much everything.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. When they passed, how long has it been since they've passed? Were they placed into a refrigeration unit or a cooler? What they died of? Was there an autopsy done or not? And sometimes physical size and condition of the vessels as well, too. My record for quickest, I'd say, was about 45 minutes. I've had some take all day. It's for one person. It's all relative. It's all situational.
This is fascinating.
It's a medical procedure, like embalming. It's very scientific, and for me, it's kind of soothing. I enjoy it. Mm-hmm. It's I can just kind of turn off my brain and go, which is nice sometimes.
Yeah.
So, but it's the true representation, I guess you can say, of the art form, and it is an art form. Like, there's so many variables that go into, because we can change the concentration of the fluids. We have different types of fluids. We have different tints and dyes that we can use, and then the cosmetizing on top of it. Do we have to restore anything? Like, I've literally have redone somebody's eyebrow.
Huh.
Like, recreated an eyebrow from hair, the whole 9 yards.
Whoa.
Yeah.
Wow.
I have covered up numerous, scratches, road rash, holes, whatnot. Oh, yeah. No, it's...
Do you have to ask family, like, hey, this is what I would like to do? Or do you just get to do that? I feel like I'm just trying to imagine that conversation. Hey, your child had an accident. May I reconstruct their face? Like,
So we have to get permission to embalm.
Okay. Yeah.
Full stop.
Yeah.
And it's a signature. So sometimes there is a little bit more involved with the conversation than, can we embalm? Because they'll ask us, well, what is that and whatnot. If it is a situation like that, we will ask. Or at least tell them, because of the accident or this, that, or the other thing, there's going to be a few extra steps that we're going to take in order to mask it, to hide it,
Is that only for open casket or also for closed?
Also for closed, because the thing is the casket's open for family.
Oh, right. Okay. But they may close it for others. Okay. Interesting. Yeah. Huh. Wow.
In situations like that, we are very open with families. in terms of that. I've had a couple of instances where I have flat out said to them, we're not going to confirm anything today in terms of dates and times. I'm not going to be able to confirm or let you know whether or not we are going to be able to have an open casket or not. Can't tell you that until they come into our care and we physically see what we're dealing with, because there are things that we can do. There are certain instances where there's not anything we can do. And those are the instances where you do need to walk the family through that with a gentle hand, but also being frank about the situation. So whether it was a car accident, hit by a train, various other, I'm sure you could fill in the blank in terms of situations where we'd need to have that conversation. But, oh yeah.
Wow. Oh my gosh. And in the case of fat bodies, the embalming process, the cosmetizing process, like that's the same as regular bodies. There's nothing that fat people need to like convey or to their loved ones around that. Okay. Yeah.
No, it may take us, a little bit of extra time. We may have to use extra fluid. But honestly, there have been times where I've used 2 gallons on a fat person and then I had to use 4 on the skinny person next to them. It's all relative.
Yeah. Yeah. Wow. Oh my God. I'm so intrigued and this really is such a taboo conversation we're having. I just keep thinking, am I allowed to ask these questions? I'm asking them, but is this okay that I'm asking? But we need to talk about this more. It shouldn't be taboo.
Exactly. We need to have these conversations. We need to have death be not such a taboo topic. And what we do not to be such a taboo topic. I've had conversations with my kids' teachers being, okay, I realize that death conversations happen differently in my house. So,
oh, yes.
Yeah, their teachers and their childcare teachers, and when they were in daycare, they all knew I was very upfront with what I did. And I'm like, it's not a taboo subject in our house. It's talked about openly. They've been around it since the day that they were born. Oh yeah. Oh, my kids know what caskets look like, and whether they're standing up in the garage for storage or whether they're in a room, because I have taken them in when I've stopped by to finish setting up a room and it's been somebody else's loved one in there and they're like, who's that?
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, I love that that's the way you're raising them to be comfortable with those conversations. Yeah.
It's the way I was raised.
Oh, okay.
Death was never a taboo subject for me growing up. There was one family funeral that my parents did not take us to. And as an adult, I know why and I appreciate why. But every other family funeral, we've gone to the point where my one cousin, I remember her calling our mutual grandmother going, Grandma, are you going to come to the funeral party? Because she was 6 and it was a party.
That's beautiful.
Yeah. She's 22 and I still hug her about it to this day.
The funeral party.
She wrote to our grandfather.
Oh, that's so sweet. Yeah.
But yeah, death was never a taboo subject in our family. I lovingly call us my big fat Irish Catholic family because that's exactly what we are. And they're a party. They are a party in our family. They are a celebration of the person, regardless of age. And it's never been a taboo subject.
Is this why people weren't surprised that this was your career choice?
I think that might be part of it. But I've always been, let's just say I've been called mother hen more than once. Growing up, I was, yeah, it just always kind of a helpful person, walking people through the tough times in their lives. My one girlfriend called me the voice of her conscience. Whenever I feel like I'm going to do something that I shouldn't be doing, it's your voice I hear in the back of my head going, don't do it.
Nice.
Oh,
yeah.
No, I enjoy it.
So if we go back to the embalming, because I'm really curious about that. So when that finishes, then the remains are ready for the funeral party, basically.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So we dress them in the clothing that their family brings. We place them in their casket, and we set them up in the visitation suite or in the chapel or wherever it is that we are going with said person. So
yeah. Okay. It was interesting when we spoke on the phone, you had mentioned, and I think this is probably the last, like, kind of what's different for fat people, but I want to raise it because I think it's so interesting, is that there was a church that had a lot of stairs and a fat person had died. Yeah. Do you want to share, like, because I just think that's one of those things that perhaps the loved ones need to think about too.
Yes. So most churches do have some kind of stairs going up into it. This one happens to be probably a floor and a half worth of stairs going from the street into the sanctuary.
And no accessibility ramp or anything. Like there was no way. Okay. Yeah.
Accessibility ramp, which was fine for like walkers and wheelchairs, but to bring a casket in that way was impossible. It just feasible. It wasn't working. Wouldn't have worked. So we had an instance where they wanted to go to church. They wanted a casket with the body in it. And we were like, we can't do it because it's a safety issue going up all those stairs. If somebody loses their grip, if somebody falls, if, you hear horror stories of the bottom falling out of the casket. I personally have not had that happen, but I know somebody who has.
Oh, no.
Yep. So, and that was an instance where potentially having conversations beforehand might have helped, just to prepare the rest of the family. We tried to be as careful as we could explaining it, because, it can come off as we are being discriminatory.
Mm-hmm.
But when it comes to safety, that's because it's not just safety for us, it's safety for them, it's safety for the pallbearers, it's safety for everybody. Did end up coming up with a solution that worked for everybody. But yeah, and I remember having this conversation with my colleague, and I was like, if it was, X church or Y church with either 2 steps or no steps, it wouldn't have been an issue, because we would have been able to take the casket right out of the back of the coach onto the truck and then in.
Mm-hmm.
But carrying for that far, it's just gonna,
no, huh?
No. And there's even one church where you can't go up the sides because the turn is too sharp. So they actually have to lift the casket up over the railing.
Oh, oof.
Because the stairs are in like an L, kind of like this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh,
casket got to go up over the railing.
Oh my God.
Yep.
Oh, like furniture or something. It's yeah.
Oh, we do joke, for the amount of furniture that we do move around the funeral home, that if any of us, this career doesn't work out, we'd be great furniture movers.
You could be movers. Oh my God.
Moving couches, chairs, stacking chairs, setting them up, taking them down.
Oh my gosh.
Oh gosh. All over the place.
I'm just really struck in this moment that like any other profession, there is humor to be had in what you do, and it's important. And it's you know what I think is so interesting, what I'm just thinking about in this moment is like what we see as like the public going through a funeral process is very different. Like, this is your job. You should have fun at it. Just because I'm one of the mourners does not, like, but do you see, it's like almost like front of house and back of house, right? Like,
yes.
Yeah.
I also say we have to suffer from multiple personality disorder in order to work in this business, because the amount of different hats that we need to wear.
Yeah.
Because we have one hat that we wear when a family first comes in to make arrangements. We have another hat to wear when they're coming in for visitation. We have another one with our own family and friends, with our coworkers. The hats also change depending on, situation, the age of the person as well too.
Whew. The agility required is incredible.
And you have to be able to pivot on the dime.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's the thing. And when you come to, humor as a coping mechanism, our sense of humor is right up there with like firefighters and cops and military and paramedics, because the things that they see are the things that we see, and it's, yeah, you gotta have that humor with, your coworkers. I'm lucky that I have family members who are cops and firefighters, and I can have that kind of conversation with.
Yeah. I'm so glad that you've got that. It'd be really hard not to be able to because you have to let it go. You can't hold all of that. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. You have to be able to let it go. You need to have people who understand and can appreciate the situation that you're in, that you can actually have those conversations with and unload in some ways as well too.
Oh, totally. Yeah. Well, and this brings us kind of perfectly into my final question, which is always around joy. So the letting work be at work, the coming home, being connected to joy, choosing joy. How do you do that? How do you personally do that for yourself?
Some days it's hard to leave work at work. I honestly find the entire job very rewarding. It's a thankless job. It's not very often that we do get that feedback from families, which is fine. It's fine. You know what? They have so much other things on their mind, but just knowing that you walked them through this tough time, you were their rock. You were the only constant in their life for the course of, however long it was. And especially when they come back, for whatever reason, I have a love-hate relationship with returning families. I love the fact that they're back and that they, it shows that we did our job right the first time and they trust us. But I also hate the fact that they're back, because now we've got to go through all of this again. But that's the rewarding part, is that you've done good, that you've, been able to help them through. It's picking up on the little things as well too. One family, she had mentioned that they were golfers, and that he had gotten a hole-in-one at one point and had put into the notice what course it was and what hole. And so on the online obituary, the background photo was, I found a photo of that hole.
Oh, you're going to make me cry. That's so beautiful. You did that.
And didn't tell them either.
I was going to say, did they notice? Did people notice?
People did notice. I think we were on the phone, and I'm like, go look at the website. And I'm like, it's off to the left. I had another one. I always bring this up with families just because when it comes to setting up the space for visitation and for funeral, that's their space. Like, my rules of thumb for bringing stuff in the funeral home, as long as I can fit through the door, doesn't damage anything, and it's legal, we're good. The legal part comes up because most people is like, why do you add that in there? Had a gun collector.
Oh
my colleague dealt with a family, and they were gun collectors and like antique guns. So it's like, you can bring what you want, day of, one gun per person, needs to be unloaded, safety needs to be on, we are not touching it.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, but I had a family, they handed me the photo for the custom printing, and it was him on his bike, on his Harley. Do you still have the bike? Yeah. Cool, can you get it here? What? Well, they were going to take it out of winter storage and get it ready for the spring. I'm like, cool, can they get it here?
Amazing.
I suppose. Like, where are you going to put it? I said, visitation suite. What? I'm like, yeah. Open up the doors, walk it right in. It'll be fine.
Oh.
Really? I'm like, why not?
Yeah.
Why not? When I told my manager at the time, luckily he just hit me and went, you're going to put something down on the carpet in case there's an oil spill, right? I'm like, well, yes, I'm not a complete moron. Thank you. And that's exactly what we did. Yep. So I have photos of it that I show families just to give them, you know what? I'm not lying. We actually did this. Just to give you an idea, sky's the limit.
Yeah. Yeah.
Sky's the limit. Whatever it is that you want to do. One, she had a craving for pickles. Loved pickles. Huge craving for pickles. They bought the Costco-sized jar of pickles and put it on the stand right beside the casket.
That's amazing. Pickles. Oh, that's delightful. And I bet it made people like laugh to see pickles like beside.
Oh, yes.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
That's amazing. Yeah. Wow.
But it's it's whatever you want to do. I'm not here to say no. If we can make something happen, we're going to make it happen.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm just noticing we're totally talking about your job again. Your job brings you so much joy. I can feel that.
It's those little things, it's helping families celebrate their person brings me joy. And I get these little stories, this one clergy I worked with, he wanted to write 2 books. One was all of the things that ever went wrong on funerals. And I can honestly say I would have been featured in at least 5 of them. To the point where when I went to his visitation, I walked up to his wife in my suit with my name tag. She looked at my name tag and she went, "Oh, so you're Adrianne." I don't know whether I should take this as a compliment or be scared. You know me by name and we've never met before. And she went, "No, it's a good thing." I'm like, okay. She just said shenanigans. And I went, okay. Yeah, we got into a lot of shenanigans. But the second book he wanted to write was of all the people that he had met but didn't meet. Because you get to meet a lot of really cool people without meeting them.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, you're going to make me cry again. Oh my gosh. There's so much beauty in what you're talking about. Yeah. I'm just really moved in this moment by how much care is given to us after we die.
Yeah. That's what we're here for.
Yeah. Amazing. Adrianne, I have learned so much today. I imagine everyone listening has learned so much today. Thank you for letting me ask ridiculous questions and just I'm really hoping this helps people be less taboo about these conversations and start to talk to their loved ones about it. And so we can be a little more planful and able to honor the wishes of our loved ones. So I'm so grateful for you. Thank you for being here and having this conversation with me.
Thank you for having me. It's part of making it not taboo, is having these conversations, is, delving into what I do, what we do, outside of the funeral home, outside of the office, making arrangements. It's helping to lift that veil, the stigma around what it is that I do.
Yeah. Well, you are quite the ambassador. So thank you.
Thank you.
Before we go, I'd like to read a poem because poetry can reach our hearts in a different way. Poems can have us feel in a different way. And that's what this podcast is all about. Expanding our hearts, deepening our empathy, and inviting in joy. So each week, you get a new poem. What a conversation with Adrianne. I've picked a sad and beautiful poem to share with you that was written by Lauren K. Aline for Faye Botham. The poem is called, "How Could I Have Known I Would Need to Remember Your Laughter?" How could I have known I would need to remember your laughter? The way it ricocheted, a boomerang flung from your throat, stilling the breathless air. How you were luminous in it, your smile, your hair tossed back, flaming, everyone around you aglow. How I wanted to live in it those times. It ignited us into giggles, doubling us over, arching and unmoored for precious minutes from our twin scars, the thorned secrets our tongues learned too well to carry. It is impossible to imagine you gone, dear one, your laugh lost to some silence I can't breach, from which you will not return. Thank you for joining me today. My hope is that you're feeling a little less alone and a little more seen. So until the next episode, you can find me on Instagram at fatjoy.life, on YouTube at youtube.com/@fatjoy, and on Substack at fatjoy.substack.com. And please do check out the episode notes for how you can connect with my amazing guest and for the links to the poem. All right, lovely. I am sending you off with my best wishes for an abundantly Fat Joy day, and we'll talk again soon.